I bind the most bizarre system in history. Others bind the system. And it is the strategy overlord and the world. And my system urges me to break off the engagement every day. At this time, I became a rich woman by completing the system every day to issue tasks to me. Today's task. Refuse the black card sent by the boss. Reward. 1 million in cash. Today's task. Break off the marriage in public. Reward. A set of real estate in the city center. Unexpectedly, one day, the system crashed, and a line of words appeared on the screen. Warning. The male protagonist has awakened. In the next second, the man who had broken off my engagement 3 times blocked the door. Sure, you stood outside the door. His black suit had not yet been changed, and his tie was a little loose by him. He had a very cold rain on his body, but his eyes were darker than the night. He looked down at me in a calm voice. Xia-wan, how much money did you make by refusing me? I held the doorknob and didn't speak. The system is frantically alarming in my head. Dangerous. Dangerous. The male protagonist has departed from the original plot. Please stay away from the host immediately. I want to close the door. Sometimes I raise my hand and hold on to the door panel. His fingers are long and well-defined. With just one click, I knew the door wouldn't close. I looked up at him. Mister, sure, we have broken off the engagement. Yes. He looked at me and said, you have lifted it 3 times. My heart suddenly stopped. 3 times. This number should not have come out of his mouth. I have divorced 3 times. This is a fact. But the first 2 times were private. For the first time, I said I wouldn't marry in the Xia family study. Xia's father dropped the teacup, and Xia Jiro stood beside him, looking at me with a pity look. The second time, I refused to try on a wedding dress at a bridal shop. Xia's mother turned pale with anger and said that I don't know what to do. The third time is tonight. I said in front of the Xia family, the Shi family, and half the celebrities in the city that I did not want to marry Shiryu. Then the system gets stuck. Then I came to the door. I suppressed the tension in my throat and said coldly, you investigate me. It's not an investigation. Shiryu said. I remembered. My back was pressed against the door frame, and my fingertips slowly got cold. What do you think of? He did not answer immediately. The lights in the corridor fell on his face, giving his expression an unreal calmness. After a few seconds, he whispered, Xia-wan, this is the 3rd time you have broken off the engagement. And this is the 3rd time I have seen you alive. My hand suddenly released the doorknob. The door opens wider. The sound of rain came in from outside the corridor window. I heard a high-pitched electric sound from the system. Warning. The plot collapses. Warning. The male protagonist has an abnormal memory. I looked at Shiyu. At this moment, I suddenly understood. It's not just the system that goes wrong. And him. It started a month ago. That day, I was having dinner at Xiao's house. The table is very long and there are many dishes, but none of them are my favorite dishes. The Xia family has always been like this. They adopted me, gave me clothes, gave me a room, gave me an identity, but never asked me what I liked. Because they don't need to know. They just need me to be obedient. Xia's father, Xia Mingyuan, sat on the main seat and pushed a document in front of me. Wan, sign it. I glanced down. It is a confirmation of the marriage contract. My name is on the 1st page. At that time, my name was on the 2nd page. I looked at those 2 words, and my heart felt a little stuffy. Time to give. One of the heirs of the Shi family in Beijing, 28 years old, young, calm, and holding the most profitable business lines of the Shi family in his hands. He rarely appears in public. People outside said that he was unkind, that he was as cold as a machine, and that he was the most difficult person in the Shi family's generation. The Xia family wants to marry me to him, not because I deserve it. It's because Xia Jiro doesn't want to marry. Xia Jiro is the biological daughter of the Xia family. The year she returned to the Xia family, I was 18 years old. She cried and said that she had suffered a lot outside, and everyone in the Xia family felt sorry for her. Since then, my position has become awkward. I am still the eldest lady of the Xia family, but I am no longer the only daughter. Xia Jiro can act coquettishly, cry, and refuse unwanted marriage contracts. I can't, because I am an adopted daughter, because I ate the Xia family's meal, because the Xia family said I should repay the favor. That night, Father Xia looked at me in a very gentle tone. The marriage of the Shi family is something that no one else can ask for. You marry is the best arrangement for our Xia family to give you. I didn't speak. Xia Mu sat next to her and sighed. Wan, you have been sensible since you were a child. Don't let us down this time either. Xia Jiro lowered her head to drink the soup, but the corners of her mouth were slightly curved. She was waiting for me to agree. She knew that as long as I married, she would be safe. I hold the pen. The tip of the pen falls on the paper, but the name is not written. At that moment, a mechanical voice suddenly sounded in my head. It was detected that the host was facing a wealthy marriage. The free system is bound. Binding successful. Today's task. Refuse to sign the marriage contract confirmation. Reward. 1 million in cash. I thought I was too tired and hallucinated, until a line of blue words appeared in front of me. which only I could see. Please complete the task within 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. I looked up. Father Xia is still waiting for me to sign. Xia's mother frowned. Xia's iris smile couldn't be hidden. I put down the pen. I don't sign. The whole restaurant was quiet. Father Xia's face sank. What did you say? I looked at him and said it again. I don't sign. The next second, the system prompts. Mission completed. The reward is being distributed. My phone vibrated. I looked down. Bank SMS. 1 million was received. At that moment, I almost laughed. It turns out that if you refuse them, you really have money to take. Xia's father slapped the table heavily. Xia Wan, are you crazy? I put my phone on the table and looked up at him. I'm not crazy. I just don't want to marry. Xia's mother immediately said, marriage is not your business alone. The Xia family has raised you for so many years, and now they need your help. How can you be so selfish? I looked at her. If this marriage is so good, why don't you let Jiro marry? Xia's iris face turned white instantly. Xia's mother was also stunned. Father Xia's eyes became cold. You are different from Jiro. What's different? I asked calmly. Actually, I know the answer. One is his own daughter. One is an adopted daughter. One can be protected. One can be exchanged. Father Xia didn't answer me. He just said, you can't help it. I lowered my head and saw the next line of words pop up on the system interface. The host completes the first resistance. Freedom value increases. The newbie reward has been unlocked. I suddenly wanted to laugh. It turns out that I was not born to be obedient. It turns out that I can also refuse. The next day, Yu came to Xiao's house. He is more oppressive than in the photo. Black suit, white shirt, no extra expression on his face. When he entered the door, Xiao's father immediately changed his smile. Xia Mu also became enthusiastic. Xia Jiro sat on the sofa, her eyes not daring to look around. She was afraid of him and that she was also afraid of being chosen. Only I stood at the staircase, like a cargo waiting to be handed over. Sometimes I raise my eyes to see me. Our eyes meet across the living room. His eyes were very light, not amazing, not interested, and not disgusted. It's like looking at a contract that hasn't been signed yet. Father Xia smiled and said, Mr. Sure. Wan just had a little tantrum yesterday. She has been spoiled by us since she was a child. But she is actually very sensible. Sure, you did not answer this sentence. He looked at me and asked, you don't want to marry me? The living room was quiet. Father Xia hurriedly said, no. She is just. I asked her. Sometimes I interrupt him. I looked at Shiyu. The system sounded at this time. Today's task. Refuse the black card sent by the boss. Reward. 1 million in cash. I was stunned. The next second, Yu took out a black card from the inner pocket of his suit and placed it on the coffee table. The marriage contract has not been officially signed yet, but if you need it, you can use this card first, he said. Father Xia's eyes lit up. Xia Mu was also relieved. Xia Jiro looked at the card with jealousy in her eyes that could not be hidden. I know that in a normal plot, I should be moved. A cold and powerful man gave me a black card, which means that he is willing to accept me and that I have the identity of a wealthy wife from now on. But all I have in my mind is the system sentence. Reward. 1 million in cash. I went downstairs. In everyone's gaze, I pushed the black card back in front of Shiyu. Thank you. No need. Sometimes I look at me. Sure, you can brush whatever you want. I don't spend money that doesn't belong to me. The system immediately prompted. Mission completed. The reward has arrived. The phone vibrated again. The second 1 million arrived. I suddenly felt very stable. That black card may allow me to become an accessory to Shiyu, but these 2 million really belong to me. Sure, yes, eyes stopped on my face. He was not angry or embarrassed. He just asked, are you short of money? I said, yes. Xia's father's face changed. Xia Wan. I didn't look at him. I continued to say to Shiyu, but I won't ask you. At that time, I got my black card back. The corners of his lips seemed to move lightly. It's not like laughing. It's more like confirming something. From that day on, the system publishes tasks every day. Sometimes the task is simple. The driver who will be arranged when refusal. Bonus. A car. That morning, the driver of the Sure family stopped at the door of Xiao's house. Xiao's mother stuffed the bag into me and said, stop making trouble. Mr. Sure is willing to arrange a car for you to save face. I looked at the black commercial vehicle outside the door, and then looked at the map on my phone. The metro station is located a kilometer away. I said, I'll go by myself. Xiao's mother turned blue with anger. I walked out of the gate of Xiao's house in high heels and walked a kilometer to take the subway. The system rewarded me with a white sedan. When the car keys were delivered to me, I sat in the subway station chair and laughed for a long time. Sometimes the task is exciting. Refuse to try on wedding dresses. Bonus. 1 apartment in the city center. In the bridal shop. Xia Jiro accompanied me. She sat on the sofa and spoke lightly. Sister, this one suits you very well. You must look good in it. I looked at the wedding dress in the mirror. White. Expensive. Like a beautiful cage. The clerk smiled and said, Miss Xia, Mr. Sure has already paid the full amount. I asked, can I get it back? The clerk was stunned. Xiao Jiro was also stunned. I turned around and walked into the fitting room, took off my sample clothes, and changed back into my own clothes. When I came out, I said to the clerk, "I won't try it." Xiao Jiro stood up. "Sister, are you going to make trouble again?" I looked at her. "If you like it, you can try." Her face froze. The system prompts that the task is complete. Half an hour later, I received the e-contract for the property. It was a downtown apartment, 120 square meters, finely decorated. Can move in directly. I stood in front of the bridal shop for a long time with my phone in hand. The sun was shining on my face. I suddenly felt that fate seemed to have cracked a crack. I can escape from there. Over the next few weeks, I began to seriously carry out system tasks. I refused the etiquette class arranged by Xiao's father. Reward: a team of private lawyers. I refused the jewelry sent by the Shi family. Rewards: an investment account. I refused to attend the couple interview with Tokyo. Reward: the address of the mother's old things. Every refusal is like cutting a thread in me. I am getting freer. The Xiao family became more and more angry. Father Xiao talked to me many times. For the first time, he was able to remain gentle. Wan. Don't be affected by momentary emotions. The Shi family is not something we can offend. The second time, he began to threaten. All the cards in your name are given by the Xiao family. With just one word from me, you will have nothing tomorrow. The third time, he directly asked the bodyguard to guard the door and did not allow me to go out. I sat in the room and looked at the system interface. Today's task: leave the Xiao family. Reward: 5 million funds for independent living. I pushed open the window and glanced at the distance from the second floor to the ground. Not high. I used to sneak out of here when I was a child. That night, I changed into my sneakers, packed my documents and computer into my bag, and jumped out of the window. When I landed, my ankle hurt, but I didn't stop. I went around the garden, avoided surveillance, and left Xiao's house through the back door. When I walked to the side of the road, my phone vibrated. 5 million arrived. I stood in the dark and suddenly laughed out loud. This time, I didn't run away from home. I escaped from the life they gave me. I moved into an apartment that was rewarded by the system. It was quiet there. There was no order from Father Xiao. There was no sigh from Xiao Mu. There were no tears from Xiao Jiro. For the first time, I had a bed that was just for me. I pulled back the curtains and saw the night view of the city glowing in the distance. That night, I slept deeply. I thought that as long as I continued to refuse and continued to complete the task, I would soon be able to completely get rid of the Xiao family, get rid of Shiyu, and get rid of this wealthy marriage contract. Until the third break-off. It was a dinner jointly held by the Xiao family and the Shi family. Father Xiao sent someone to pick me up. I didn't want to go. The system issued a task. Today's task: announced the dissolution of the engagement in public. Reward: property rights on the first floor of a commercial building in the city center. I looked at the reward amount and was silent for 3 seconds. Then she changed into a long black dress. I went. The dinner was held at the Shijie Hotel. The crystal lights were bright. The champagne tower was tall, and everyone was dressed decently and expensively. When they saw me, their eyes were very complicated. There is ridicule. There is curiosity. There is also the excitement of waiting to watch the play. Father Xiao walked up to me, lowered his voice and said, "You'd better stop talking nonsense tonight. Mr. Shi has given you many opportunities." One asked. "He gave me a chance. Or do you need me to give the Xiao family a chance?" Xiao's father's face darkened. "Xiao Wan, don't forget who raised you." I looked at him. "I haven't forgotten. Because I haven't forgotten, I want to leave even more." At that time, I was standing not far away. He was wearing a dark black dress and surrounded by many people. He didn't look at others. He was looking at me. That kind of gaze made me uncomfortable. Too quiet. Too sober. Like he knows what I'm going to do tonight. Xiao Jiro walked over wearing a white skirt, her eyes slightly red. "Sister, I know you don't like me, but you can't hurt your parents like this. Mr. Shi is already very tolerant of you. Why do you still make trouble?" The people around began to look over. She is best at this. She doesn't have to attack me directly. As long as she whispers her grievances, everyone will speak for her. Someone said softly, "This is the adopted daughter of the Xiao family, right? I heard that I don't want to marry Shiyu. Does she want to raise the price? The adopted daughter can marry into the Shi family, and she is still not satisfied." I listened to these voices, and my heart didn't fluctuate much. If it were before, I would be embarrassed. I will want to explain. I would want to prove that I am not ungrateful. Not anymore. Because the system prompt has already sounded. The countdown to the mission begins. Please announce the dissolution of the engagement in public. I picked up a glass of champagne and walked the center of the ballroom. When Father Xiao saw my movements, his face changed instantly. "Xiao Wan, what are you going to do?" I didn't stop. I stood in front of the band and picked up the microphone. The music stopped. Everyone looked at me. I saw the warning in Xiao's father's eyes. Seeing Xiao Mu's pale face. Seeing Xiao Zyrus' uncontrollable excitement. I also see the time of the past. He stood on the other end of the crowd. He didn't stop me. He just looked at me quietly. I clenched the microphone. "Everyone, Sorry to bother. My voice spread throughout the ballroom through the stereo. I want to announce one thing tonight. Xiao's father walked over quickly. Shiryu suddenly raised his hand and stopped him. The movement was very light, but no one dared to move again. I looked at everyone and said word by word, I, Xia Wan, don't want to marry Shiryu. The audience was as quiet as death. I continued, the marriage contract between me and Mr. Shiryu was never my choice. So starting today, I unilaterally break off the engagement. I don't accept compensation. I don't accept persuasion. This is my decision. After saying that, I put down the microphone. At that moment, the system sounded. Mission accomplished. The reward is being distributed. I thought it would be like before, and the phone would receive the message soon. But this time, no. The system interface flashed and turned red. Warning, warning. The male protagonist has awakened. The plot node is abnormal. The system is restarting. My heart sank. The next second, I saw Shiryu walking towards me. He made his way through the crowd. Everyone automatically steps aside. Xiao's father wanted to speak, but was suppressed by Shiryu's look. At that time, I walked up to me. He was not angry. No humiliation. No questioning. He just looked at me. At that moment, I suddenly felt that he seemed to have been waiting for this moment for a long time. He said, Xia Wan, come out with me. I took a step back. Mister, sure, we have nothing to do with each other. I know. Then what else do you want to say? He whispered, it's not safe here. I frowned. What do you mean? Before he could answer, there was a sudden sound of glass shattering from the side door of the banquet hall. A waiter knocked over the tray. The crowd was briefly chaotic. Shiryu looked in that direction, and his eyes suddenly became cold. He grabbed my wrist and led me straight out of the banquet hall. I want to get rid of him, but his hands are very steady. He didn't hurt me, but he made me unable to break free. At the end of the hallway, he let go of me. Get out of here, he said. I sneered. Shiryu, what do you think this is? I just broke off your marriage, and now you play the role of protector. His gaze fell on my face. I'm not acting. What is that? He was silent for a moment. I want you to live. My heart jumped suddenly. The system is still restarting. Red text appeared intermittently on the screen. Dangerous. Stay away from the male protagonist. The male protagonist wakes up. I looked at Shiryu and forced myself to calm down. What the hell do? You know. He looked at me as if he was deciding whether to say it. In the end, he only said, don't go back to Xiao's house tonight. I laughed. I haven't lived in the Xiao family for a long time. A hint of light emotion flashed in his eyes, like rest assured, also like pain. I didn't understand. I turned around and left the hotel. That night, I drove back to my apartment. Along the way, the system did not return to normal. I felt uneasy. I parked the car in the underground garage and made sure that no one was following behind before going upstairs. But as soon as I opened the apartment door, before the light was turned on, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around abruptly. At that time, I was standing at the end of the corridor. His black coat was on his arm, and his tie was loose, as if he had come all the way. I stared at him. You follow me? He approached. No. Then how do you know I live here? Because this suite is an old asset under Yilan's name. I froze. Yilan, my mother's name. No one in the Xia family has mentioned her for many years. I rarely mention it. They said she died of illness, said she didn't leave anything, and said that I could be adopted by the Xia family, which was already the best ending. Why is the house that can be rewarded by the system related to her? Before I could speak, Shiryu was already standing outside the door. His voice fell. Xia Wan, how much money did you make by refusing me? I looked at him and didn't answer. He added, cash, car, property, a team of lawyers, and the commercial building tonight. These are not given to you out of thin air. My heart sank suddenly. You know the system. Sometimes I look at me. I don't know what it's called, but I know that every time you reject me, you get something. The system suddenly resumes for a second. Red warnings fill my vision. Dangerous. The male protagonist has departed from the original plot. Please stay away from the host immediately. I took a step back and wanted to close the door. At that time, I pressed the door. He looked me in the eye and said word by word, Xia Wan, this is the third time you have broken off the engagement, and this is the third time I have seen you survive. My voice tightened. What does the third time mean? At that time, I did not answer. He just looked down and glanced at the suitcase at my feet. That's the escape box I prepared tonight. It contained my ID, cash, computer, and the only necklace my mother left behind. Shiryu's eyes stopped on the silver chain that showed a corner. His face changed. Don't put your mother's things here. I was more vigilant. Why do you care? He looked up at me. This time, there was finally emotion in his voice. Because the first 2 times, you were taken from this apartment. I clenched the doorknob. The next second, the apartment elevator suddenly rang. The numbers jump up from the first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor, finally stopped on my floor. Sometimes I turned my head to look at the elevator. His eyes were instantly terribly cold. He said, go in, don't make a sound. Before I could react, the elevator door opened. 3 men in black came out. The leader holds a photo in his hand. The person in the photo is me. When the 3 men saw me, their footsteps stopped at the same time. The hallway is quiet. The elevator door slowly closed behind them. making a slight noise. I stood at the door, and Shiyu stood in front of me. His back was straight, and his shoulders blocked most of the hallway lights. I heard the system ringing intermittently in my head. Dangerous targets are approaching. It is recommended that the host evacuate. It is recommended that the host stay away from the male protagonist. The system fails and new tasks cannot be rated. I stared at the three men. The leader laughed quickly. Miss Xia. Mr. Xia asked us to take you home. I said coldly. I'm not going back. Mr. Xia said that you are emotionally unstable tonight and need to be taken care of by your family. He has no right to limit my freedom. The man still laughed. Miss Xia, we are just carrying out orders. After he finished speaking, the two people behind him took a step forward. At that time, I didn't move. He only asked, Xia Mingyuan asked you to come. The leader looked at him, his face changing slightly. Obviously, he didn't expect Shiryu to be here. Mr. Sure, this is the family affair of the Xia family. At that time, my voice was very weak. From the time you came to the door with her photo, it wasn't a family matter. But Miss Xia is the daughter of the Xia family. She is an adult Datamar. Xia is worried that she will be affected. Sometimes I look at him, who is influenced. The man did not dare to answer. I stood behind Shiryu, but my heart did not relax, because I don't like that feeling. Was blocked by him, protected by him. It's like I just escaped from the Xia family and fell into the control of another person. I took a step to the side and stood beside Shiyu. Tell Xia Mingyuan, I said. I'm not going back. The smile of the leader disappeared. Miss Xia, you'd better not make it difficult for us. I looked at him. You'd better not let me call the police. His face sank. The moment he raised his hand, Shiryu took a step forward. He moves quickly. I didn't even see clearly. The wrist of the leader was clasped by him, and the whole person was pressed against the wall. There was a muffled sound. The other two people rushed over immediately. Shiryu didn't look back, just said, enter the house. I didn't listen. I took out my phone and turned on the video. You move one more step, I'll call the police now and send out the video. They stopped. Shiyu looked back at me. That glance was short, but I saw a little surprise. Like he thought I would hide. Of course I won't. I hid for too long. The man at the head gritted his teeth and said, Miss Xia, you are against Mr. Xia. From today onwards, it will be him who opposes me. I called the police. 10 minutes later, a police car came downstairs. The three men were taken away for investigation. Of course, they would not admit to kidnapping, only saying that they were hired to pick up people. There can be video recordings, community monitoring, and recordings that I explicitly refuse. At least tonight, they can't take me away. After the police car left, only me and Shiyu were left in the corridor. I put my phone back in my pocket and turned around and went into the house. At that time, I was standing outside the door and did not come in. I looked at him. Do you still have something to do? He said, pack things and change places. Why? It's been exposed here. To whom is it exposed? Xia family. He paused. And Shiheng. The first time I heard the name. Who is Shiheng? My second uncle. Why is he looking for me? Sometimes I look at me. Because you are the most vulnerable person in their plan. I laughed. Are you so scary when you wealthy families talk? I'm not scaring you. Then you can make it clear. At that time, I was silent. I know he's hesitating. I hate it when people use silence to control information. So I closed the door directly. When the door was about to close, he reached out to block it. Xia Wan, let go. You can't stay here alone tonight. Shiyu, I don't need you to arrange my life. He looked at me and whispered, I know. I sneered. What do you know? There was a moment of exhaustion in his eyes. I know you hate being decided. I was stunned for a moment. He continued. So I won't take you away. You can choose the place yourself. I only have people protect your car. Protect the elevator and the downstairs entrance. I don't accept it. Yes, he said. Then I'll remove the people. He really took out his phone and sent a message. A few seconds later, he said, withdraw. I didn't know what to say. This man is not what I thought. He is strong, but he didn't seem to force me. This makes me even more uneasy, because if a dangerous person only threatens, I can still guard against it. But if he knows how to give in, respect, and stand in a position that I can accept, it will be more difficult for me to judge what he wants. I looked at him. What do you mean when you say you saw me survive 3 times? Sure, yes. Fingertips tightened slightly. Not now. Why? You won't believe it now. Then how do you know I won't believe it? He looked at me. Because the first 2 times, I told you the same. The air suddenly became quiet. I heard my heart beating heavily. The first 2 times. Shiyu closed his eyes, as if suppressing some emotion. Xia Wan, you don't remember. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. I suddenly felt that this hallway was cold. The system recovers a little at this point. New tasks are being generated. Today's mission. Temporary housing provided when refused. Reward. 7-day access to private security resources. I looked at the system prompt and almost wanted to laugh. It allows me to refuse time, but rewards me with security resources. It's like knowing in advance that I need security. I looked up at Shiyu. You want to arrange a place for me to live? Yes. I refuse. System prompt. Mission completed. Reward distribution. The phone quickly received a message. An unfamiliar number came. Hello Miss Xia. We are the old security department of Yes and have received protection authorization. Please check whether the service is enabled. Yi. It's a leaf again. My mother's name is Yilan. I squeezed my phone. Sure, you saw my expression and asked softly, what did the system give you? I didn't answer. I don't want him to know more, but he seemed to have guessed it. Security. I looked up at him. How much do you know? A little more than you, but it's not enough. He said, why don't you tell me directly? Because I said it. You won't believe it completely. If you don't say it, I won't believe it. Sure, you looked at me and didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, okay. He took a step back. You go see Gu Chengyuan tomorrow. Who? Your mother's lawyer during her lifetime. My breath stopped. My mother's lawyer. The Xia family never told me that she had a lawyer. Of course they won't tell you. Address? Sure, you took out a business card and placed it on the entrance cabinet by the door. He didn't enter the door. This is his law firm. I picked up my business card. Gu Chengyuan. Legal counsel of Yips Trust. 1 star. Ed at those words. My palms sweating. Why did you tell me? Sometimes I look at me. Because if you don't look for him, Xia Mingyuan will find him first. After saying that, he turned to leave. When he walked to the elevator, I suddenly spoke. Time is gone. He turned around. I asked, are you really bound to the system too? He seemed stunned for a moment. Then he shook his head. No. Then why do you know this? His eyes sank. Because I remember. The elevator door opens. He walked in. Before the door closed, he said, I remember you died twice. The elevator door closed. I stood there, holding the business card, and didn't move for a long time. That night, I didn't sleep. I took out the necklace my mother left behind and put it on the table. The silver chain is old. The pendant is a small moon. When I was a child, I asked Xiao's mother what kind of person my biological mother was. Xiao's mother said, she is not in good health and has a weak personality. You are not like her. You are more sensible than her. Later, I asked Xiao's father if my mother had left anything for me. Xiao's father said, no, she left suddenly, leaving nothing behind. I believed for many years, because I have no other answer. But now, the money, house, security, and lawyers rewarded by the system are all related to Yilan. I began to suspect that the Xia family had lied to me from the beginning. The next morning, I was going to see Gu Chengyuan. As soon as he went out, he received a call from Xiao's father. His voice suppressed anger. Xia Wan, did you call the police last night? Yes, they're just going to pick you up and take you home. I said I wouldn't go back. Don't forget, everything you have now is given to you by the Xia family. I walked into the elevator. Then you can take it back. Xiao's father sneered. Do you think I can't take it back? Your bank cards, credit cards, insurance, and cars are all related to the Xia family. If I want to, you can't even afford breakfast today. I looked at myself in the elevator mirror. My face was a little white, but my eyes were clear. You can try. The other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds. Father Xiao's voice became colder. Wan, don't force me. You are just an adopted daughter. If you confront the Xia family, no one will stand on your side. I said, I'm on my side. Then I hung up the phone. A minute later, the phone vibrates continuously. Several cards that originally belonged to the Xia family's account were all frozen. The old card that the Xia family gave me also received a lock notice. I stood in the underground garage and suddenly laughed. If it were a month ago, I would have been scared. Not now, because I have a car that is systematically rewarded. I have my own account. I have my own house. I am no longer the one who is trapped by their words. The system also releases new tasks at this time. Today's task: refuse the invitation to the Xia family's dinner. Bonus: full authorization from a team of private lawyers. I frowned. Xia family dinner. The next second, Xia Jiro sent me a message. Sister, Dad wants to invite you home for dinner tonight. We're all family. Don't make it so ugly. Okay. A photo was also posted later. Dining table, flowers, cakes. It was like they were really waiting for me to come home. But I saw the shadows of two strange men in the corner of the photo. The Xia family didn't want me to eat. He wanted to take me back and control me. I replied to her, no. The system prompts that the task is complete. Immediately afterwards, I received a lawyer's authorization document. Gu Chengyuan's name appears on the first line. I was finally sure. The system is pushing me to see him. I drove to the law firm. Gu Chengyuan's office is in an old office building. It is not as cold as the Shi family's building, nor as luxurious as the Xia family's office. It's quiet here. When the front desk heard my name, he immediately stood up. Miss Xia, Lawyer Gu has been waiting for you for a long time. Wait for me for a long time. I walked into the office. Gu Chengyuan is in his 50s. With half-white hair and wearing a dark gray suit. When he saw me, his eyes moved obviously. That's not business courtesy. It was like seeing the shadow of an old man. Miss Xia. He stood up. You're finally here. I didn't sit down. Do you know my mother? He nodded. I was Ms. Yilan's legal counsel. Did she really leave something for me? Yes. Why did the Xia family say no? Gu Chengyuan was silent for a moment. Because they don't want you to know. This answer is like a knife, directly cutting through the illusion I have believed for many years. I sit down. Please tell me everything. Gu Chengyuan opened the safe and took out a thick document bag. My name was written on the document bag. Late summer. The handwriting is beautiful. He said, This is a trust document left by your mother during her lifetime. I reached for it, my fingertips shaking a little. The document contains a cash account, property details, company shares, and a special trigger clause. The more I look, the colder my heart becomes. If the beneficiary Xiaowan, before the age of 25, voluntarily refuses any marriage arrangement for the benefit of the family, the first stage of the trust will be automatically unlocked. I looked up. What does this mean? Gu Chengyuan looked at me. It means, your mother has long known that the Xia family will make a deal with your marriage. My throat was tight, so she left these so that I could escape. Yes. What about the system? Gu Chengyuan frowned. What system? I didn't continue. It turned out that Gu Chengyuan did not know the existence of the system, but he knows the trust. This shows that the system is likely not an ordinary mystical force. It's like some kind of program. It pushed the trust left by my mother to me in the form of a task. I asked, why is it set to refuse marriage to unlock? Gu Chengyuan sighed. Because Ms. Yilan knows Xia Mingyuan very well. She knew that if she just left the assets directly to you, Xia Mingyuan would definitely control you before you came of age and let you sign the waiver document. So she locked up her assets. Only when you start to actively resist the arrangement of the Xia family will the trust be returned to you little by little. I looked at those documents with sore eyes. For so many years, I always thought that my mother had left me with nothing. It turned out that she had left away. It's just that the Xia family hid the road. Gu Chengyuan took out another small box. This is what your mother asked me to give you when you first took the initiative to contact me. I opened the box. Inside is an old chip and a note. The note reads, Wan. Don't be afraid to say no. Rejection is not a loss of love. Rejection is to find yourself. I lowered my head. The vision blurred for a moment. I don't want to cry, but tears still fell on the paper. Gu Chengyuan didn't bother me. It took a long time for me to ask, did my mother really die of illness? The office was quiet. Gu Chengyuan's face became complicated. The official record is that he died of illness. What is the real situation? He did not answer immediately. I stared at him. Lawyer Gu, I am no longer the obedient child of the Xia family. You don't have to protect me with what they gave me. Gu Chengyuan closed his eyes. Before Ms. Yilan's death, she suspected that Xia Mingyuan had transferred the company's assets. My fingers tightened. And then what? She is ready to sue for divorce and to make her accounts public. But she didn't have time. Yes, I understand. The mother is not as simple as dying of illness suddenly. Xia Mingyuan has deceived me for many years. When I came out of the law office, it was already cloudy. The system is finally fully restored. It doesn't explain the breakdown. It's just a cold release of new tasks. Today's task. Prove in public that you don't need the Xia family. Reward. A clue to Yilan's old case. I looked at the content of the mission and suddenly realized something. The system is increasingly like a protective mechanism left by the mother. It knows what I need. Also know what I fear the most. It forced me to move forward. In the afternoon, the Xia family's dinner was in the news. Xia Jiro posted a family photo. There is no me in the photo. The caption reads, there will be misunderstandings between family members, but the door of the house will always be open for her. The comments are full of praising her kindness. Some people said that I was ungrateful, saying that the Xia family raised me, but I broke off the engagement on important occasions, which made the Xia family humiliated. I didn't explain. At 7 o'clock in the evening, I appeared at the Xia family dinner on time. Not going home is to complete the task. The Xia family invited a lot of people tonight. There are relatives, partners, and media. They are clearly ready. As soon as she saw me, Xia's mother's eyes immediately turned red. Wan, you're finally back. She came over and wanted to shake my hand. I avoided it. Her hand stopped in midair, tears falling. Someone next to him immediately whispered, after so many years, how can it be so cold? Xia Jiro came over and said softly, sister, don't blame your mother. She didn't sleep all night last night. I looked at her. Really? Then she should be tired. The expression on Xia's iris face froze. Xia's father stood in the center of the living room, his face very heavy. Xia Wan, there are so many people here today. You give everyone an explanation. Explain what? You broke off the engagement in public, embarrassing both the Xia family and the Shi family. You also called the police and said that your family had kidnapped you. Do you know how much this affects the reputation of the Xia family? I looked at him. So tonight is not a family banquet. Is it a trial? Father Xia suppressed his anger. Do you have to talk like this? I looked around. Everyone was looking at me. They waited for me to bow their heads, waiting for me to admit that I am willful, waiting for me to return to the control of the Xia family. System tasks flashed before my eyes. Prove in public that you don't need the Xia family. I took out my phone and connected it to the projection screen in the living room. Father Xia's face changed. What are you going to do? I ignored him. I opened the first file. This is a personal account in my name. Balances and running water appear on the screen. Of course, I hid the specific account, but the amount is clear enough. Someone at the scene gasped. I opened the second file. This is the property rights certificate of the apartment in my name. Xia's iris face turned pale. I opened the third file. This is a lawyer's power of attorney, the seal of Gu Chengyuan law. W firm clearly appeared on the screen. I looked at Father Xia. Starting today, anyone who restricts my freedom, freezes my property, or threatens my safety in the name of my family will be dealt with through legal means. Xia's father's face was blue. Are you scaring me with these things? It's not scaring you. I looked at him. It's to inform you. The living room was dead and silent. I continued. The Xia family has raised me for many years, and I will account for the real expenses. I should pay it back. I will return, but I won't accept the Xia family's living expenses anymore. I will no longer bear the obligation of the Xia family's marriage. I won't let you exchange my life for benefits just because I'm an adopted daughter. Xia's mother cried and said, Wan, how can you talk about your family so badly? I looked at her. If you are family, why did you send someone to the apartment with my photo last night to block me? Her face turned pale. Xia Jiro immediately said, Sister, that's just Dad worried about you. I looked at her. Are you worried about me too? She bit her lip. Of course. Then why did you deliberately show the shadow of those 2 bodyguards in the photo you sent me? Xia Cyrus' face changed completely. The crowd began to talk in low voices. Xia's father finally lost control. Enough. He winked at the bodyguard next to him. 2 bodyguards immediately walked towards me. I didn't retreat, because the door was pushed open at this time. Sure, you walked in. He was followed by 2 lawyers and several black-clad bodyguards. Father Xia's movement stopped. Mr. Sure. Shiyu walked up to me. He didn't stand in front of me. He just stood next to me. This is a very delicate position. It is not the protector who holds down the protected, but on the same front. He looked at the 2 bodyguards. His voice was very cold. Whoever touches her is against me. No one dared to move in the living room. Father Xia smiled reluctantly. Mr. Sure, this is our Xia family's business. Sure, you glanced at him. What happened to your Xia family? Do you mean forcing adults to go home, freezing her card, sending someone to block her door, or trying to take her away in public? Xia's father's face was ugly. There is a misunderstanding in this. Sure, you said lightly. Then let the lawyer talk. I didn't look at him. I don't want to become dependent on him at this moment, but I have to admit that he appeared just in time. Xia Jiro looked at Shiryu, tears rolling in her eyes. Mr. Sure. My sister is just impulsive. We all hope she is well. Shiryu looked at her. She doesn't need your hope. Xia Jiro froze. What she needs is for you to stop hurting her. When this sentence falls, the system prompts. Mission completed. Reward distribution. The clues to Yilan's old case have been sent. My phone vibrates. An encrypted email goes to the mailbox. I didn't open it on the spot. I looked at Father Xia. For the first time, his eyes were truly flustered. He may not know what I got, but he knew that things were starting to spiral out of control. When I left the Xia family, sure, you followed me. It was raining lightly outside. He handed me the umbrella. I didn't answer. Why are you here today? Gu Chengyuan contacted me. Why did he contact you? Because your mother's old case is also related to the Shi family. I stopped. The rain fell on my shoulders. Shijia. Shiyu looked at me with a very heavy look. Yes, including you. He was silent for a second. I was still young at the time, but someone from the Shi family participated. I heard my voice get colder. So you approached me to investigate the case? No. What is that for? At that time, I did not answer. He just put the umbrella in my hand. Look at the email first. I got back in the car and opened the encrypted email. There are only 3 things inside. A hospital death record. A financial audit report of Yilan during his lifetime. There is also a photo. The photo was taken in THE hospital corridor. The date is the day my mother died. In the picture, she is sitting on a bench outside the ward, pale but still awake. Opposite her stood a man. The man's face was photographed clearly. Not Xia Mingyuan. It was my father. Sure, Yenshan. My hand holding the phone started to get cold. Sure, you stood outside the car and did not leave. He seemed to know what I saw. I lowered the window and looked at him. Your father has seen my mother. He said. Yes. You knew it a long time ago. I only confirmed it recently. Is your father involved in her death? Sometimes I look at me. The rain slid down his brow bone. His voice was so low that it was almost drowned out by the sound of rain. I don't know yet. I laughed. Do you think I will believe it? He didn't make an excuse. I started the car. Shiyu, don't follow me anymore. He stood in the rain and did not stop him. Xia Wan, don't take the East 3rd Road tonight. I glanced at him. Do you know the danger? Yes, because you remember that I died twice. His face turned white. I didn't listen to him anymore. So I went straight up the window and drove away. I didn't take the East 3rd Road. I don't believe him, but I don't want to risk my life either. I chose a different path. But when the car drove under the overpass, I found a gray van following me all the time. I accelerate, and so does it. I change paths, and it also changes paths. The system starts alarming. Dangerous. Dangerous. Abnormal vehicles detected. It is recommended that the host stop and evacuate immediately. However, there is no safe parking area under the overpass. The red light came on. I hit the brakes. In the rearview mirror, the van did not slow down. It crashed straight at me. My mind went blank. At that moment, A black off-road vehicle rushed out from the side and slammed into the van. The loud impact made my eardrums ache. My car was pushed to the guardrail. Airbags pop out. I bumped my forehead and my eyes turned black. Someone pulled the car door hard. Xiaowan. It was my voice. He unfastened my seatbelt and carried me out of the car. My legs were so weak that I couldn't stand still. He helped me to the side of the road and checked my forehead and arms. His hands were cold, but he was shaking. I lost control when I saw it for the first time. He looked at He van that had been wrecked, and there was a kind of hatred in his eyes that was suppressed to the extreme. Sirens came from afar. I grabbed his cuff and my voice was hoarse. What's going on? He did not answer immediately. I looked up at him. Did you know there would be a car accident? At that time, I closed my eyes. I know they're going to do it. Who? Xia Mingyuan, Shiheng, or the people they sent together. Why me? He looked at me. At that moment, there was a deep pain in his eyes. Because you are alive. They can't get Yilan's things. My breathing was disturbed. Then why do you know that something will happen on this road? He whispered. Because last time, you died like this. The smell of hospital disinfectant water is very strong. I sat in a chair outside the emergency room with gauze on my arm and a simple treatment on my forehead. The doctor said I only had a slight abrasion, but I know that it was not an accident. That van had no brakes. It's Komi. At me. At that time, I was standing at the end of the corridor and talking on the phone. His jacket still had dust from the crash and torn cuffs, but he didn't seem to feel the pain. He just had a cold face and arranged things one by one. I couldn't hear what he was saying. I don't want to hear it either. I just want to know now what exactly he said about last time. The system was silent for a long time. Since the car accident, it has been unusually quiet. I asked it in my head. He said I died. Is it true? No response. System, don't you keep posting tasks? Why not speak now? There was still no response. I looked at the people coming and going in the hospital corridors. And suddenly I felt like I was standing in a huge scam. The Xia family lied to me. At that time, my family lied to me. Maybe even the system didn't tell me the truth. At that time, I hung up the phone and walked towards me. I looked up at him. Explain. He sat opposite me and didn't come close. Which part do you want to listen to first? Oh, okay. He looked at me in a low voice. It's not the first time I've experienced this. I looked at him coldly. Continue. For the first time, you didn't bind the system and didn't refuse the marriage contract. You married me. My heart felt like it was hit by something. I'm going to marry you. Yes. And then what? 3 months later, you died in a car accident. My fingertips are cold. Like tonight. It's worse than tonight. Sure, yes, voice was very soft. When I arrived, you were no longer breathing. I was silent for a long time. He didn't rush me. I asked, what about the second time? The second time. I kept the memory of the first time. I tried to change everything in advance. I stopped the car accident, prevented the Xia family from approaching you, and arranged you in the safest place for the Shi family. I laughed. Sounds like captivity. His eyes darkened. Yes. I didn't expect him to admit it so quickly. So the second time. I hate you. Yes. And how did I die? Sure, yes, hand slowly clenched. You've been framed as a business leaker. All the evidence points to you. You can't explain it. And no one believes you. What about you? I believe it. Then I'm still dead. He didn't speak. Here is the answer. I looked at him. My chest was blocked. But not because I felt sorry for him. It's because of fear. If what he said is true, then I have died twice. And I have no memory. This is more terrible than death itself. I asked, why do you remember? I don't know. Why don't I remember? I don't know. Why do I have a system this time? He looked at me. That's the only difference. The lights in the hospital corridors are very white. His face was almost pale. I suddenly understood why he was outside the apartment tonight. Why he knew about the car accident. And why he knew about Gu Chengyuan. He is not a prophecy. He has experienced. However, I can't trust him just because he is in pain. I said, Shiyu, do you know what's the most ridiculous thing? He looked at me. You said you wanted to save me. But you, like the Xia family and the Shi family, are all deciding for me. His eyes trembled slightly. I continued. For the first time, I married you and died. The second time, you put me in a place where you thought it was safe. And I still died. The third time, I rejected you. But I have lived to this day. Don't you think that's telling? He was silent for a long time. Then he said, so this time, I didn't stop you from breaking off the engagement. I was stunned. He whispered, I asked you to reject me. This sentence made my heart tighten. What do you mean? The first time I broke off the engagement, I could suppress it. The second bridal shop, I can let the wedding continue. For the third dinner, I can also let you say that paragraph. But I didn't. He looked at me. Because this time, you have to go out on your own. I don't know what to say. This sentence does not seem like a lie, but I still can't believe it. I whispered, if you really want to help me, give me the evidence you know. Yes. He took out a hard drive and put it on the chair next to him. There are clues I found in the first 2 times. It may not be complete, or some may have changed. I didn't take it right away. Aren't you afraid that I will find out about your father? I'm afraid. Then you give it back to me. He looked at me. I'm more afraid that you don't know anything. I picked up the hard drive. The palm of the hand is very heavy. It's like picking up a death record that doesn't belong to me. At this time, Gu Chengyuan rushed to the hospital. When he saw that I was injured, his face immediately changed. Miss Ya, did they do this? I grasped the point. They. Gu Chengyuan glanced at Shiyu. At that time, I didn't speak. Gu Chengyuan sighed. It seems that there are some things that I can't hide from you anymore. We left the hospital and went to Gu Chengyuan's law firm. This time, Gu Chengyuan didn't just show me the trust documents. He opened a deeper safe. There are several thick stacks of information inside. These were asked by Ms. Yilan before she died. I turned to the first page. Yes Group's shareholding structure. On the second page, Xia Minjiwan's asset transfer record. On the third page, the receipt certificate of a certain account of Shijia. My hand stopped. Shijia. Gu Chengyuan nodded. A sum of money from the Yi Group flowed to an offshore account under the name of the Shi family. I looked at Shiyu. He was also looking at that document. His expression was cold, but there was no surprise. Who does the account belong to? I asked. Gu Chengyuan said. On the surface, it belongs to Shi's overseas company. What about the actual controller? Still investigating. I laughed. After so many years of investigation, it still hasn't been found. Gu Chengyuan fell silent. Sure you spoke. Because that line has been cleaned. I looked at him. Who cleaned it up? My second uncle. Sure Heng. Are you sure? The first 2 times. I found him. But you have no evidence. Not yet. I lowered my head and continued to read the information. The more I look, the more cold I feel. Mother Yilan is not the weak, docile, and incompetent woman in the Xia family's mouth. She has founded companies. She has her own shares. She found that Xia Mingyuan was cheating, found that he had transferred assets, and also found that he had abnormal financial transactions with some people in the Shi family. She is ready for a divorce. Prepare to sue. Prepare to make the truth public. Then she died. Died of illness. What a clean 2 words. It was as clean as someone had specially wiped off all the blood. Ked Gu Chengyuan, why didn't she just hand these over to the police? She originally asked me to meet the next day. Gu Chengyuan's voice was low, but she didn't wait until the next day. The office was quiet. I held the information in my hand, and my knuckles turned white. The system suddenly rang at this time. Post-contact core clues detected. Hidden mission opens. Mission content. Find out the truth about Yilan's death. Stage reward. 20 of the progress of unlocking Yes old assets. I closed my eyes. Sure enough, the system is related to the mother. It didn't reward me out of thin air. It was just returning what my mother had hidden to me step by step. I asked Gu Chengyuan, do these cash, real estate, security, and lawyers originally belong to Yilan? Gu Chengyuan nodded. Yes. Then why does the system send it to me in the form of a task? Gu Chengyuan frowned. Miss Ya, I don't know what the system you are talking about is, but Ms. Yilan did set up an automatic trigger mechanism before her death. What mechanism? She entrusted the technical team to do a set of risk identification procedures. It will release resources in stages based on your personal safety, asset status, and engagement status. My heart was shaken. Procedure. Yes. Who maintains it? Gu Chengyuan shook his head. After Ms. Yilan's death, the procedure was sealed. All I know is that the starting condition is that you voluntarily reject the family marriage arrangement. I remembered the cold voice of the system. Think of those tasks. Refuse the black card. Refuse the driver. Refuse the wedding dress. Break off the engagement in public. It's not rewarding me for being willful. It was training me to resist. I suddenly wanted to see my mother. Even if it's just one meeting. I wanted to ask her, why didn't you tell me earlier? I also want to tell her that I have finally begun to learn to say no now. Sure you never spoke. I looked at him. So you knew that these rewards were left by my mother. I guessed it. When? After you rejected the black card for the first time. Why? Because that money came from Yes Trust account. I was stunned. You check my account. No, he said. The money passed through an old passage of shares. I found a similar path when I checked the timescale. So you asked me that day if I was short of money. Yes. I suddenly felt ridiculous. That day I thought I was just testing me. It turned out that from then on, he found out that something was wrong. I asked, why didn't you tell me? You will only think that I am lying to you at that time. Now I think so too. I know. He admitted that he was too calm, but it upset me. I stood up. From now on, I will check it myself. At that time, I also stood up. I can provide clues. I don't need your protection. I'm not protecting. What is that? Cooperation. I looked at him. The premise of cooperation is trust. One can give you all the information. That's not called trust. That's called exchange. He was silent. I picked up the information and put it in my bag. Shiyu, I will check your father and your second uncle. Yes. If I find out that you have been involved, I will not be soft. Yes. I stared at him. Are you really not afraid? He looked at me and said after a long time, Xia Wan, if there is a price I should pay in the truth, I will pay. I didn't respond. After leaving the law firm, I did not go back to the apartment. It's no longer safe there. I enabled the security team rewarded by the system and temporarily moved into a safe house. Safe houses are ordinary. 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. The windows are protected, and people downstairs take turns on duty. I sat on the living room carpet and spread out all the materials. My life is like a torn piece of paper. Now, I want to put it back piece by piece. The first line is Xia Mingyuan. He swallowed the assets of his mother's company. The second line is the overseas account of Shijia. The flow of the money is unknown. The third line is the hospital record on the day of the mother's death. I found a problem. The hospital's death record shows that the mother died at 9:26 p.m. The time of the monitorable photo is 9:41 p.m. In other words, the time of death in the official record is earlier than when she last appeared in the hallway. The record was altered. I stared at those 2 times, and a chill ran down my back. This is not an oversight. Someone is creating a fake death process. I immediately contacted Gu Chengyuan. Lawyer Gu, I want the hospital to be fully monitored. The monitoring of that year has been deleted. Where's the backup? There was silence on the other end of the phone. I heard that he was hiding something from me. Lawyer Gu, he sighed. Ms. Yilan did arrange for someone to back up a copy back then, but that backup needs to trigger permissions. What permission? I don't know. At this moment, the system sounded. Today's task. Invite cooperation when you refuse. Reward. Monitor and backup on the day of Yilan's death. I looked up. Shiyu's phone came in almost at the same time. I looked at his name on the screen and suddenly felt a chill in my back. The system knew he would contact me. It also knows that I want to monitor. I connected. At that time, my voice came. I found out that the hospital's monitoring backup may be on an old server. And then what? You need permission from my side to enter. System tasks flashed before my eyes. Invitation to cooperate when refused. I clenched my phone. I refuse. The other end of the phone was silent for a second. At that time, I didn't seem surprised. The system gave you a task. I didn't answer. He said, what is the reward? I was still silent. He whispered, Xia Wan, be careful with it. My heart tightened. What do you mean? It doesn't have to be just your mother. I haven't asked yet. And the system prompts that the task is complete. An encrypted video file appeared on my computer desktop. I immediately hung up the phone and opened the file. The video is blurry. It is the monitoring of hospital corridors. The time shows that Yilan died at 9:37 p.m. On the same day, I saw my mother come out of the ward. She is thinner than in the photo, but she does not look dying. She leaned against the wall and walked very slowly. A few seconds later, a man appeared in the frame. At that time, Yenshan, Shiyu's father, he walked up to his mother, and the two said a few words. There is no sound. Then the mother seemed excited, covered her chest and took a step back. Sure, Yenshan stretched out his hand to help her. She avoided it. When I got to this point, my heart was beating so fast that I could hardly breathe. It turned out that they had really seen it. It turned out that the Sure family was really involved. The video continues to play. After Sure Yenshan left, his mother did not return to the ward. She walked down the hallway to the safety exit. At this moment, the surveillance footage flashed slightly. A few seconds of blank. When he recovered, there was one more person in the corridor. The man stood in the shadows, wearing a dark coat and a hat. I can't see the face clearly. When his mother saw him, her whole body froze. She backed away. The man approached her step by step. There is no sound in the picture, but I saw fear in my mother's expression. That's not the fear of facing strangers. That is to recognize the other party. The man raised his hand. The video flashed again. The next second, the picture returns to normal. The hallway is empty. The mother is gone. I sat in front of the computer, chilling all over. The system suddenly sounded a piercing alarm. Warning, the data was tampered with. Warning, the real enemy is approaching. Before I could react, the doorbell rang suddenly. The location of the safe house is known only to the security team. No one should come. I held my breath and looked at the door surveillance. There is a courier standing on the screen. He was wearing a hat, with his head down, and a bag of documents in his hand. I didn't open the door. The mobile phone received an anonymous text message at this time. Text messages are only one sentence. Do you think the system is saving you? The next second, the second text message popped up. It's just a different way to send you back to Shiyu. The doorbell is still ringing. Next, another step. The sound was not loud, but it was like knocking on my bones. I sat in front of the computer and didn't move. On the screen, the courier lowered his head and pressed the brim of his hat very low. He was holding a yellow document bag with no courier slip on it. This is not a normal express delivery. I picked up my phone and dialed the security captain. Someone is outside the door. The other party immediately said, Miss Xia, don't open the door. We went upstairs right away. I turned off the computer sound and zoomed in on the surveillance screen. The courier suddenly looked up. At that moment, I saw his face clearly. Not a stranger. It was one of the men who was taken downstairs by the police last night in my apartment. My fingers were instantly cold. He smiled at the door camera. Then, he left the bag of documents at the door and turned to walk towards the stairwell. A few seconds later, security personnel rushed upstairs. They didn't chase anyone. The stairwell is empty. Only the document bag was still at the door. The security captain put on his gloves and brought the document bag in. There were no bombs and no dangerous objects inside. There is only one photo. In the photo, it is my mother Yilan. She sat in a ward with a baby in her hands. The baby is small and wrapped in a white blanket. A sentence is written on the back of the photo. She lied to everyone, including you. I looked at the lines, and my chest seemed to be pressed by something. The security captain asked, Miss Xia, do you want to call the police? I nodded, but I know that calling the police can only deal with what is in front of me. The real question is not why this person found the safe house. It's why he knows I'm here. The location of the safe house is known only to Gu Chengyuan, the security team, myself, and the system. Gu Chengyuan will not betray me. The security team was the ones my mother left behind, and they had no reason. Then there is only one possibility left. System. I looked at the computer screen. The system interface is still suspended in front of you. Danger lifted. It is recommended that the host stay away from Shiyu as soon as possible. For the first time, I didn't follow its prompts. I asked it back. Why? The system did not answer. I continued to ask. Why do you always keep me away from Shiyu? The system interface flashed. The male protagonist's danger level is too high. Staying away from the male protagonist is conducive to the survival of the host. I sneered, but every time I was in danger, he was saving me. The system stuck for a second. The male protagonist is awakening, and the plot is uncontrollable. Uncontrollable does not equal danger. The system is silent. I stared at that picture. The mother in the photo is very young. Her eyes are tired, but she is very gentle. The baby in her arms should be me. But what does the sentence behind the photo mean? She lied to everyone, including me. I don't believe in anonymous, but I also can't continue to fully trust the system. I took the photo and sent it to Gu Chengyuan. 10 minutes later, he called back. His voice was deep. Where did you get this photo? Someone sent it to the door. Miss Ya. I've seen this photo. I stood up. Where? In Ms. Yilan's old computer. Where is that computer? Gu Chengyuan was silent. I heard his hesitation. Lawyer Gu, now is not the time to protect me, he said. The computer is in the basement safe room of Yes old office building. Why didn't you tell me before? Because the permissions there are complicated. Ms. Yilan said that you can only go there if you confirm that you no longer believe in any single answer. I understood. My mother didn't want me to doubt everyone. She wants me to learn to judge independently. I asked, can I go tonight? Yes. But you have to bring someone. I'll bring security. Gu Chengyuan paused for a moment and said, it's best to notify Shiryu as well. I clenched my phone. Why? Because Yes old office building now nominally belongs to Shir's company. I closed my eyes. It was the family of the time. All roads cannot be bypassed. The system prompts again at this time. It is recommended that the host refuse to travel with Shiyu. Reward. Yes old computer turns on the password. I looked at the line and suddenly smiled. It's too rushed. The more urgent it is, the more certain I am that something is wrong with it. I didn't take on this task. I dialed the phone I gave when I dialed. He took it quickly. Xia Wan. I'm going to the old office building of the Yi family. The other end of the phone was quiet for a second. When? Tonight. I'll accompany you. The system warning pops up immediately. The host is going against the advice. The danger increases. Please end the call immediately. I stared at the system interface and slowly said, okay. The system freezes instantly. A string of red gibberish flashed past my eyes. At that time, I heard that my tone was wrong and asked, is the system responding? Yes. It makes you reject me. Yes. You didn't refuse. Yes. On the other end of the phone, Shiyu's breathing became a little lighter. He said, Xia Wan, be careful with it. It may have been changed. This sentence was like a needle, piercing into my heart. In fact, I already guessed, but when he said it, I still felt cold. At 10 o'clock in the evening, we met at the door of Yes old office building. The building is very old. There is a lot of ash on the exterior glass, and the Yi logo at the door has long been removed, leaving only vague traces. I stood at the bottom of the steps and looked at the vacant wall. This used to be my mother's company, but I've never been here. The Xia family told me that Yilan had no career. She is just a woman who is not in good health. She lives on Xia Mingyuan. After her death, Xia Mingyuan adopted me, which was the greatest kindness to her. Now I stand here, and I just think it's ridiculous. How can a woman who can set up complex trusts, leave risk procedures, and retain evidence be the weak person they call weak? Shiyu walked up to me. He was wearing a black trench coat and his face was colder than during the day. Are you ready? I glanced at him. Do you know where the underground safe room is? I know. Why? The first 2 times I came, I didn't ask again. We took Gu Chengyuan and the security personnel into the building. There are no lights in the building. Flashlights shine through the empty hall, and old photos hang on the walls. I saw a group photo. In the photo, Yilan stands in the middle, wearing a white suit, surrounded by young employees. She smiled lightly, but she was very powerful. I stopped, gently touched the ash on the frame with his finger. This is the first time I have seen the real her in a photo. Not a mother in a hospital bed, not the weak woman in the Xia family's mouth, but a person who owns his own world. At that time, I stood behind me and did not urge me. I withdrew my hand. Let's go. Triple verification is required for the basement safe. Gu Chengyuan entered the first lawyer's authorization code. At that time, I entered the second building management authority. The third is the biological code. Prompt. Please enter the heir identification information. Gu Chengyuan looked at me. Miss Ya, put the necklace on it. I was stunned. Necklace. I took off the moon necklace left by my mother and put it on the identification table. Blue light swept over the pendant. A few seconds later, the door opened. The safe room was very clean. It's not like abandoned for many years. Inside there is a table, an old computer, and several storage boxes. I walked to the computer. The screen lights up automatically. A file appears on it. A final message to Wanwan. My heart tightened violently. Gu Chengyuan whispered, "We are waiting for you outside." He withdrew with the security personnel. At that time, I also turned around to leave. I called him. "You stay." He looked at me. "Sure." I nodded. "Sure." The system started warning again. "Please stay away from the male protagonist." I just turned off the system tone, although it was still in my head. At least I didn't have to hear that screeching sound. I click on the file. The screen went black for a moment. Then, the mother Yilan appeared in the picture. She sat in this safe room, her face pale, but she tried to smile at the camera. "Wanwan, if you hear this, it means that you have started to run away." My tears welled up instantly. I bit my lip tightly. "Don't let yourself cry." She continued. "I'm sorry mom didn't grow up with you. I know that Xia Mingyuan will tell you a lot of lies. He will say that I am weak, that I am sick, and that I have not left you anything. Don't believe it. Mom has loved someone, but she also believes in missing someone. But I didn't give up on you." I bent down. My hands propped up the table, tears falling on the back of my hands. "Sure, you stood beside me, silent like a mountain." Yilan in the picture continued. "I set up a set of asset protection programs. It kicks in when you begin to reject the life you are assigned to you. Every time you refuse to control, it gives you a little power. Money, house, lawyer, security, shares. These are not rewards. This is what belongs to you." I cried so hard that I could hardly breathe. I see. I was not suddenly favored by fate. It was my mother who waited for me to wake up in her way. Yilan in the video suddenly coughed a few times. Her face turned even whiter. "Wanwan, remember, it's not marriage or a certain man that really wants to escape. You want to run away from all the people who decide your life for you, including me." I was stunned. She looked at the camera, her eyes gentle and sober. "Even if it's a program left by your mother, you can't listen to it completely. If one day it allows you to hurt innocent people or makes you give up your judgment, that means it's no longer what I left you. Destroy it." My heart sank violently. "Sure, you also raised his eyes." The next second, there was a burst of noise in the video. The picture began to shake. Yilan seemed to hear the sound outside the door, and his face changed suddenly. She hurriedly stuffed something into the drawer. Then, a man's voice sounded. "Yilan, do you think you can protect her?" I froze. That voice is too familiar to me. Xia Mingyuan, my adoptive father. Video interruption. The screen went black. The safe room was as quiet as death. I stood there with cold hands and feet. It turned out that before her mother died, Xia Mingyuan had already discovered her arrangement. He didn't lie to me later. He knew from the beginning that my mother had left me something. So he adopted me. So he controls me. So he waited for me to grow up. He didn't want an adopted daughter. It is the key to Yilan's legacy. The computer screen lights up again. A hidden folder pops up. There is a lot of information in it. I open the first one. It is evidence that Xia Mingyuan forged medical records. The second copy is the details of Yes assets being transferred. The third copy is an abnormal access record. Records show that the protective program left by the mother was hacked remotely 5 years ago. I continued to look down. The source of the intrusion points to the internal server of Sure. I looked at Shiyu. His face was so cold that there was no trace of temperature. "It's not me," he said. I know. When this sentence was spoken, even I was stunned for a moment. I actually said I knew. Not because I trust him completely. It's because I finally understand the net. If Sure you really controlled the system, he didn't need me to find out all this. He didn't even need to remind me to be careful with the system. I asked, "Who has authority within the Sure family?" Shiyu's voice was very deep. "Time balance." Sure enough, I opened the last access log. A hidden task modification log appears above. The original mission goal was help Xia Wan break away from the family's control and gradually receive Yilan's assets. 5 years ago, it was amended to help Xia Wan stay away from Shiyu and use Xia Wan to destroy Sure if necessary. I looked at the lines, and my chest became cold little by little. It turns out that the system did not keep me away from Shiyu from the beginning. Someone changed the goal. Time balance. He wanted to use me against Shiryu. Xia Mingyuan wanted to use me to get Yilan's inheritance. The two of them. One controls me in the Xia family and the other guides me in the system. I thought I was on the run, but they kept changing the cage for me. The system suddenly sounded in my head. This time, it is no longer a mechanical girl. It's a twisted electric current. Illegal access detected. The host behaves abnormally. Final mission preview. Mission goal. Let Shiyu lose his inheritance. Reward. All trust assets unlocked. I looked at the red text in front of me and suddenly stopped being afraid. I laughed. "You're in a hurry. Sometimes I look at me." I said, "It gives me the final mission." "What task?" "Let me destroy you." Hurried footsteps suddenly came from outside the insurance. The security guard pushed the door in. "Miss Xia." Someone broke in outside. Sure, you immediately pulled me behind him. I didn't let him stop me. I took a step forward and stood beside him. "Who?" The security personnel looked ugly. "Xia Mingyuan." I walked out of the safe. At the end of the underground corridor, Xia Mingyuan stood there. He was followed by several bodyguards. His face looked gloomy and strange in the flashlight. I called him Dad since I was a child. At this moment, I finally saw clearly that he was never my father. Xia Mingyuan saw me and smiled slowly. Wan, it seems that you already know a lot. I stared at him. Did you kill my mother? He didn't panic. There is not even a deny. Your mother is too greedy. My heart was cold. She takes back her things. Called greed. She wants to ruin the Xia family. She wants to leave you. Xia Mingyuan's face distorted for a moment. She is my wife. Everything about her should belong to me. I laughed. Very light. It's also cold. What about me? He looked at me and his tone suddenly became gentle. Wan. I've raised you for so many years, and it's not that I don't have feelings. You give me the trust authority, and I can let you continue to be Miss Xia. How familiar are the words? Continue to be Miss Xia. Keep making beautiful pieces. Continue to be obedient. I looked at him and said, Xia Mingyuan, you don't deserve to mention my mother, nor do you deserve to call me Wan. The gentleness on his face completely disappeared. It seems that you were taught by Shiyu. Before I could speak, the system suddenly gave me one last hint in my head. The final mission is activated. Please let the host lose the right to inherit. Reward. All assets. Failure penalty. Lose all existing rewards. Xia Mingyuan seemed to know what the system prompted. He looked at me and smiled. Xia Wan, do you think you have a choice? All your money, house, lawyer, security, are given to you by the system. As long as the system takes it back, you have nothing. My heart sank little by little. He knows the system. That's where the real scary thing is. Xia Mingyuan continued. Help me and Shiheng get rid of Shiryu. Everything Yilan left behind is still yours. Otherwise, you'll be worse than before. I looked at him and suddenly understood. This game was never a marriage contract between me and Tokyo. It was a game set up by Xia Mingyuan and Shiheng. They want me to hate Shiyu. Keep me away from him. In the end, I want to destroy him with my own hands, and I will be their cleanest knife. I looked up at Shiyu. He was also looking at me. His eyes were very quiet. He didn't force me or beg me. He gave me the option back. I suddenly laughed, said to Xia Mingyuan, okay. At that moment, my eyes moved. Xia Mingyuan also narrowed his eyes. Have you figured it out? I looked at him. I can make Shiyu lose his inheritance. System prompt. Host accepts the final mission. The countdown to the mission begins. Xia Mingyuan finally smiled. This is a smart child. I laughed too, but my smile has no temperature, because I know that from this moment on, the real game begins. When I promised Xia Mingyuan, sure you did not expose me. He just stood next to me and looked at me. That kind of look is very deep, like he knows I'm acting. It's also like he's willing to bear my real betrayal. After we left the old building of the Yi family, we didn't speak. It wasn't until the car drove into a quiet road that Shiryu asked the driver to stop. The rain has stopped. The street lamp outside the car window fell on his face, making his eyebrows look cold. He asked, what are you going to do? I looked at him. Don't you ask me if I'm serious. I asked, can you tell the truth? No, then you don't have to ask. I was silent for a few seconds. Shiyu, what will you do if I really destroy you in order to get my mother's inheritance back? He looked at me. Then I'll admit it. My heart suddenly sore. I hate that feeling. I don't want to be soft for him. I don't want to be judged by feelings at this time. I said coldly, do you think this is very affectionate? He was not angry. No, what is that? I owe you. I frowned. You don't owe me. The first 2 times, I didn't let you survive. That's not me in this life. For me, yes. The car was quiet. I turned my head to look out the window. After a long time, I said, I'm going to pretend to betray you. Sure, you was not surprised. And then, the system wants me to make you lose your inheritance. Xia Mingyuan and Shiheng also wanted this result. Then I'll give them a result. Fake results. Yes. I turned to look at him. I want you to cooperate with me to lose once. He looked at me. Yes. You don't ask the price. How much do you need me to lose? I looked at his calm appearance and suddenly felt a little annoyed. It may be that the company's stock price has fallen. Yes. It may be that the board of directors forced you to suspend your position. Yes. It may be that the outside world scolded you, and Shiheng took the opportunity to attack. Yes. It may also be that I said in public that you used me, deceived me, and even presented false evidence to prove that you were related to Yilan's old case. Shiryu was silent for a moment. I thought he would hesitate, but he said, yes. I finally couldn't help it. Shiyu, can you say that you can say everything? He looked at me. Then what do you want me to say? Say you're afraid. Say you don't want to. Say you don't believe me. He whispered. I'm afraid. I was stunned. I'm afraid you really don't want me. He was so direct that I didn't answer for a while. He added, I'm afraid I won't be able to save you this time. My throat felt like it was blocked. I don't open my eyes. Cooperation is cooperation. Don't say that. Okay. He retreated quickly. Retreat to a position where I can breathe. This is the most dangerous. He won't force me. So it became harder and harder for me to push him away completely. The next day, the plan begins. Shiryu deliberately released the news, saying that Shir's overseas account was investigated, and the board of directors questioned him. At the same time, as Yilan's heir, I submitted a letter of question. The letter mentioned that yes, funds flowed into Shir's overseas account that year. And Shiryu was required to publicly explain as the current person in charge. As soon as this letter was sent, public opinion immediately exploded. Xiaojiro was the first to jump out. She was interviewed by a financial media. In the camera, she is wearing a white dress and her eyes are red. My sister has been working hard all these years. We all understand her desire to get her mother's inheritance back. But Mr. Sure was once her fiancé. I didn't expect that she would hurt him in this way. As soon as the interview came out, the internet was full of discussions. Some people say I'm ungrateful. Some people say I turned my face for money. Some people also said that I broke off the marriage not for freedom, but to retaliate against Shiyu after the failure to raise the price. I looked at these comments and there was no explanation. The system prompts that it has been rising. The final mission progress is 30. Xia Mingyuan called me. His voice was satisfied. Well done. I didn't speak. He continued. Next, you need to get evidence of vulnerabilities in the current internal project. How do I take it? Shiyu trusts you, and you naturally have a way. I laughed. Will he still believe me now? Xia Mingyuan said. Men will always be a little more stupid for women who can't get it. I listened to his words and only felt sick. When will Shirhing see me? The other end of the phone paused for a few seconds. What are you in a hurry for? I want to confirm my payment. Don't worry, as long as Shiryu falls, Yilan's trust authority will be completely handed over to you. I deliberately asked, can the system really do it? Xia Minjiwan's voice was lowered. The system was originally what your mother left behind, but she was too naive to think that a program could protect you, so you changed it. He stopped talking. I continued. Dad, I'm already on your side. Do you still want to hide from me? This title apparently pleases him. His tone softened. 5 years ago, Shirhing's people found the entrance to the program. Yilan can prevent me, but she can't prevent the internal authority of the Shir family. We just changed direction a little. Let you point the knife at Shiyu. My voice recorder lay quietly on the table. The red dot flashed. I lowered my eyes and asked softly, what about my mother? Xia Minjiwan's voice was cold. Don't mention her again. I just want to know. Did she know that you would change the procedure? So what if she knows? She died in the end. After he finished saying this, the other end of the phone was quiet. I was also quiet. A few seconds later, Xia Mingyuan seemed to realize that he had slipped his mouth. Wan, don't think about it. I closed my eyes. My chest hurts terribly, but my voice is smooth. I know. I just want to get back what belongs to me. After hanging up the phone, I made 3 backups of the recordings. Then send Gu Chengyuan an encrypted file. Gu Chengyuan quickly replied to me. The evidence is valid, but not enough to convict. Evidence of direct participation of Xiying is required. I know, so I have to keep acting. On the 3rd day, Shiryu held a press conference as planned. The press conference hall was full of media. Everyone was waiting to see him explain the overseas account. I sat in the last row. Next to me were people arranged by Xia Mingyuan to keep an eye on me. At that time, I was standing on the stage. He was dressed in a dark suit and had a calm complexion, like the quietest point in the center of the storm. The reporter asked sharply, Mr. Shir, do you know about the inflow of yes funds into Shir's account? Is your dissolution of the engagement with Miss Xia related to an asset dispute? Does Miss Xia have evidence of your illegal operation? Shiryu did not answer immediately. He looked at me. All the shots turned to his line of sight. I know. It's time for me to play. I stood up and walked to the front of the stage. The flash stabbed my eyes so much. I pulled out a document. That is the evidence of the vulnerability that we forged in advance. Looks real enough, but the most critical data is all hidden and marked. As long as Shirhing uses it will expose his own server. I stood in front of the microphone and looked at Shiyu. He looked at me too. I said, Mr. Shiyu and I no longer have any personal relationship. The hall fell silent. I continued. In the past few days, I have received some information showing that yes asset transfer that year may be related to Shir's overseas account. I used to trust Mr. Shiyu, but now, I choose to hold them accountable publicly. The reporter immediately made a commotion. Someone asked loudly, Miss Xia, do you mean that Mr. Shir deceived you? I looked at Shiyu. There was no expression on his face. But I know. He heard it. I said, yes. The word is like a knife. When it fell, it also cut myself. System prompt. The final mission is 60 progressive. The reporter continued to ask, do you think Mr. Shiryu is not suitable to continue to be in charge of the Shir family? I clenched the document. This is the most critical sentence in the plan. As long as I say it, Shiryu will fall into a greater crisis of trust. One looked at him. He didn't hide. It didn't stop me either. He gave me the choice. I heard myself say, yes. The audience was in an uproar. System prompt. The final mission is 80 progressive. Shiryu finally spoke. His voice came through the microphone. Terribly calm. Miss Xia, are you sure you want to do this? I looked at him. My heart hurt like it was crushed. Sure. He nodded. Okay. There is only one word. No questioning. No anger. No disappointment. But I'd rather him scold me. After the press conference, Shir's stock price fell in response. The board of directors held an emergency meeting. Shirhing officially came forward and asked Shiryu to suspend all core positions and cooperate with the investigation. Xia Mingyuan sent me an address. 8 o'clock tonight. Come here. Xing wants to see you. I looked at the message and knew that the fish had finally taken the bait. At 8 o'clock in the evening, I arrived at the clubhouse on time. The box is large. Xia Mingyuan sat inside. Xia Jiro was also there. She was wearing an expensive dress and looked at me like a loser who had finally fallen into the mud. Sister, you are amazing today. She smiled sweetly. Even Shiyu can be pushed down by your own hands. I glanced at her. Do you feel sorry for him? The smile on her face froze. Xia Mingyuan frowned. Stop talking nonsense. The box door opens. A middle-aged man walked in. He is somewhat similar to Shiyu, but his eyes are darker. No need to be introduced. I know it. He is Shiheng. Shiheng sat down in the main seat and looked at me. Miss Xia, smarter than I imagined. I said, I just want to get my stuff back. Very good. He smiled. Smart people know that feelings are the most useless. He said, pushing a document in front of me. Sign it. I opened the file. It is a confirmation of the transfer of trust authority. On the surface, it helps me unlock all my assets. The actual clause hides the agency authorization. As long as I sign, Xia Mingyuan and Shiheng can jointly control Yilan's estate. I looked up. It's not the same as what was promised. Xia Mingyuan said, you are young and don't know how to manage. We just help you. I laughed. Help me help you in your own name. Xia Mingyuan's face darkened. Shiheng smiled. Miss Xia, you don't have many choices now. He took out the tablet and put it on the table. On the screen, it was me. He sat in an empty room with blood on his wrist. My breath suddenly choked. Shiheng looked at me. Shiryu has now lost power. Only one last step away. I stared at the screen. At that time, I lowered my head, as if I was unconscious. I know he was taken away from the plan, but the blood on the wrist was not in the plan. Shiheng continued. You sign and hand over the final key of Yilan Trust. I'll let him go. Xia Jiro smiled softly next to him. Sister, didn't you say that you have nothing to do with Mr. Sure. You won't be reluctant now, right? The system sounded at the same time. Final mission update. Option 1. Give up time. Reward. Complete freedom. All assets unlocked. Option 2. Save the time. Punishment. The system is unbound, and all rewards are cleared. I looked at the prompt in front of me. Suddenly it was calm. It turns out that this is the choice they really want. They want to prove that I am like them. For money, you can give up anyone. For freedom, you can crush another person's life with your own hands. But they were wrong. Freedom does not come this way. In exchange for betrayal, it is not called freedom. I looked up at Shiheng. Do you think that all my confidence comes from the system? Shiheng narrowed his eyes. Isn't it? Xia Mingyuan said coldly. Xia Wan, don't be stupid. Without system rewards, you are nothing. I laughed slowly. Then listen up. I chose to unbind. The system suddenly emitted a screeching noise. Host refuses final mission. The system unbinding program starts. All rewards are frozen. The phone vibrates continuously. Bank account frozen. Property rights are frozen. Vehicle PE. Remissions are frozen. Security authorization freeze. Messages popped up one by one. Xia Jiro looked at my phone and laughed out loud. Sister, are you crazy? Xia Mingyuan's face changed. Xia Wan, do you know what you are doing? I nodded. I know. I stood up. I'm stopping being controlled by you. Shiheng finally realized that something was wrong. He looked at the door. Stop her. I didn't move, because the door has been pushed open from the outside. Gu Chengyuan walked in with a team of lawyers. There are also police person L behind him. Shiheng's face changed suddenly. Xia Mingyuan stood up suddenly. You call the police. I looked at him. More than that. I took out my phone and pressed play. Xia Mingyuan's voice came from inside. So what if she knows? She died in the end. His face turned pale instantly. I played the second segment again. This is the recording in the box just now. Xing threatened me to hand over the trust key. Xia Mingyuan forced me to sign the agency authorization. All clearly. Shiheng sneered. It's just a recording. It doesn't say anything. Really? I looked at Gu Chengyuan. Gu Chengyuan turned on the computer. A tracking screen appears on the screen. The fake evidence I handed over at the press conference has been imported into their internal system by Shiheng's people. The data tag is successfully posted. Server location, operator, and access path are all displayed. Gu Chengyuan said. The technical team provided by Mr. Shi has collected evidence simultaneously. Shiheng's face changed completely. He finally understood. I was acting from start to finish today. I'm not a knife. I'm the hook. Xia Jiro panicked. It's none of my business. I don't know anything. I looked at her. Are you sure? I took out another document. You pretended to contact the trust institution and tried to apply for a change in their information. You are also involved in forging Yilan's will. Xia Cyrus' face turned pale. That's what Dad asked me to do. Xia Mingyuan looked at her suddenly. Shut up. It's too late. She has already said it. The box was completely chaotic. The police stepped forward to control the situation. Shiheng's people wanted to stop it, but they were stopped by another team of people rushing in from outside the door. I saw Shiyu coming from the end of the hallway. He had gauze wrapped around his wrists. The face is very white, but he is alive. The string I had been tightening finally loosened a little. He walked up to me. Are you okay? I looked at his wrist. I should ask you this, he said. Minor injury. I wanted to scold him. I want to ask him why he let himself really hurt. But there were so many people here. I just gritted my teeth and said, there should be no real bloodshed in the future plan. His eyes softened slightly. Okay. The countdown to system unbinding continues. 10, 9, 8. I looked at the list of rewards that kept disappearing in front of me. Those money, those houses, those things that once made me feel safe, were cleared one by one. Strangely, I wasn't afraid, because I finally know. Money can be taken, the house can freeze, the car can fail, but no one can take away what I have learned. I will check the evidence. I'll fight back. I would say no. I would choose. The countdown is to 1. The system suddenly stopped. The picture turns black. Then a line of words appears. The hidden conditions are met. The host voluntarily gives up the wrong reward. The final program starts. I was stunned. The next second, my mother's voice sounded in my head. Very light. It is also very gentle. Won. You finally didn't refuse for the sake of a reward. When the mother's voice sounded, the whole world seemed to be silent for a second. I stood in the chaotic box, looking at the system interface in front of me. It is no longer red. There are no more cold orders. On the black background, a line of white characters slowly emerged. Yilan's final protection program was launched. The evidence package is being uploaded. Recipients, regulators, police, Gu Chengyuan's legal team, and former members of Yes Board of Directors. I was stunned. It turns out that the system unbinding is not the end. It is the last door. The mother hid the real evidence here. The final program will only open when I no longer act for the sake of rewards, no longer being pushed by the system, or even willing to give up everything it gives me. She wants to make sure that I have the ability to take control of my life. She wants to confirm that I will no longer be controlled by anyone with money, engagement, fear and love. Xia Mingyuan also saw the upload progress on Gu Chengyuan's computer. He was crazy and wanted to pounce on him. Turn it off. Turn it off. The police immediately held him down. He struggled to look at me. His eyes red. Xia Wan, you can't do that. I'm your dad. I looked at him. At this moment, I was not angry. There is no fear. Only clear disgust remained. You're not. Xia Mingyuan froze. I said word by word. You are just the one who killed my mother, swallowed her assets, and controlled her daughter. You don't deserve to be a father. The blood on Xia Mingyuan's face faded. Xia Jiro sat on the sofa, crying so much that her makeup was spent. Sister, I really don't know anything. I looked at her. You know, she shook her head. I haven't harmed you. You know the danger of the marriage contract, so let the Xia family push me out. You know that Xia Mingyuan sent someone to block me, but he pretended to care about me. You know you don't have the right to inherit, so you try to impersonate me. I walked up to her. Xia Jiro, you are not innocent. You just failed. She turned pale, lowered her head, and couldn't speak anymore. When Shi Heng was controlled, he calmed down. He looked at Shi Yu and sneered. Do you think you won? At that time, I did not answer. I spoke for him. It's not that he won. Shi Heng looked at me. I stood in front of him and said calmly, I won. His eyes became cold. Miss Xia, you are too naive. Uploading evidence does not mean a conviction. Capital will not fall because of a woman's revenge. I nodded. You're right. He narrowed his eyes. I continued. So I didn't prepare just one piece of evidence. Gu Chengyuan opened the second folder. Inside are documents that Xing has manipulated offshore accounts, transferred Shi's assets, and forged board voting records for many years. These materials come from Shiyu. It also comes from the clues he found out little by little in the first 2 cycles. In the past, he failed because he wanted to fight everyone alone. This time, we gave the evidence to enough people. Police, lawyer, regulators, media. There are also shareholders who oppose Shi Heng within Shi family. Shi Heng's face finally changed. Shi Yu stepped forward, his voice cold. Second uncle, you have already lost. Shi Heng suddenly smiled. Lost? He stared at Shiyu. If it weren't for this woman, do you think you can beat me? Sometimes I look at me. His eyes were very quiet, so I didn't win. He turned his head and looked at Shi Heng. She won. My heart moved slightly. I am not an appendage to him, not his weakness, not his woman. In this game, I am the one who stands alongside him, even the most critical people. When Shi Heng was taken away, he was still staring at me. Xia Wan, you won't be safe in the future. I looked at him, then let the enemy line up in the future. His face was distorted. I didn't look at him anymore. The box gradually quieted down. Gu Chengyuan walked up to me, his eyes a little red. Miss Xia, if Ms. Yilan knows, she will be very happy. I lowered my eyes. I wish she knew. Gu Chengyuan said. She knows. I didn't cry. This time, I held back, because I still have a lot to do. After Xia Mingyuan, Xia Jiro and Shi Heng were taken away for investigation. Things quickly fermented. Yilan's old case was restarted. Some of Xiao's assets were seized. Shi held an emergency board meeting. Shi Hing's faction was cleaned up. Shiyu returned to the core position. And I, as the sole heir of Yilan, officially received the remaining shares and assets of the Yi family. 3 days later, I held my first press conference. I didn't wear the dress prepared by the Xiao family, nor did he wear anything that represented the status of a wealthy family. I wore a white suit, like in my mother's old photos. The press conference was full of reporters. They have a lot of questions. Asked me if I NT to go back to the Xiao family. He asked me if I was getting back together. Asked me if I will take over the Yi family. Asked me if I hate the Xiao family. I stood on stage and looked at the camera. I said, I'm only announcing 3 things today. First, I have no kinship with the Xiao family. All future legal disputes will be handled by lawyers. Second, I will accept the company and assets left by Ms. Yilan in accordance with the law. Third, I won't be an accessory to anyone. The scene was quiet for a moment. The reporter immediately asked, Miss Xia, will your marriage contract with Mr. Shi be restored? I looked at the audience. At that time, I was sitting in the last row. He didn't sit in the VIP seat, nor did he stand by my side. He just looked at me quietly like an ordinary person. He chose this position himself. He said that today is my press conference, and he shouldn't steal any attention. I retracted my gaze and said to the reporter, no. Everyone was in an uproar. I continued, I once rejected this engagement because it was not my choice. Now even if I have any relationship with Mr. Shi, it will not start with a family marriage contract. I won't be arranged to marry anyone. I will only choose the life I want. The audience was very quiet. I know that this sentence will be interpreted by many people. Some people will say that I am too tough. Some people will say that I don't know what to do. Some people will also say that I pretend to be sober. But that doesn't matter, because I'm telling the truth. After the press conference, I went to Yes' old office building. The sign has been rehung there. Yi. The 2 words are clean and bright. I stood at the door and watched the workers fix the new plaque. The sun shone down, shaking my eyes a little sore. Gu Chengyuan stood beside him. Miss Xia, the board members have arrived. I nodded. Let's go. The first board was not easy. Yi has been silent for many years. Assets have been split, and personnel loss is serious. My mother left behind a name and a bunch of bad debts. But I'm not afraid. These things are at least real. It's not the identity given to me by the Xiao family, not the reward sent to me by the system. It's the responsibility I have to take it with my own hands. The meeting lasted 4 hours. I didn't pretend to understand. If you don't understand, I will ask directly. Someone tested me, thinking I was young. Just lucky to get my inheritance back. I flipped the information in front of them and pointed out the problems one by one. This account was repeatedly reimbursed 3 years ago. This supplier is related to Xiao Mingyuan, and the contract is suspended. The person in charge of this subsidiary has participated in the transfer of assets and the transfer of legal affairs. The conference room is getting quieter and quieter. In the end, no one regarded me as an adopted daughter who would only break off the engagement. At the end of the meeting, Gu Chengyuan said to me, Ms. Yilan was like this back then. I asked, what? It looks quiet, but as soon as she speaks, no one dares to fool her. I laughed. That's good. I want me to be like her. Not because I am her daughter. It's because she deserves to be a better person. In the evening, I went to my mother's grave alone. The tombstone is clean. Gu Chengyuan said that he has been taking care of him over the years. I put down a bouquet of white flowers. Mom, I'm here. The wind blew through the leaves, making a very soft sound. I sat in front of the grave and told her what had happened recently. I told her that I knew the truth. Tell her that Xiao Mingyuan will be tried. Tell her that Yi is back. I also told her that I had survived on the system she left behind, and then gave up it with my own hands. I didn't blame you. I looked at the photo on the tombstone. Yilan in the photo is very young. She smiled faintly. I know you just want to protect me, but in the future, I will protect myself. I paused and said, if you can hear me, I want to tell you, I learned to say no. I also learned to choose. When I left the cemetery, it was almost dark. At that time, I was standing at the door waiting for me. He didn't go in to bother. When he saw me come out, he handed me a bottle of water. I took it. This time there was no refusal. He looked at my face, crying. I said, no. He didn't debunk me. Okay. We walked side by side to the parking lot. After a while, I asked, how is your wrist? Minor injury. It's almost healed. Show me. He obediently stretched out his hand. The gauze has been changed and there is not much blood. I frowned. Do you call this a minor injury? He whispered. I'm afraid you'll worry. I glanced at him. I don't like it when others get hurt to protect me. Not again. I don't like it when others make decisions without telling me. Know that I don't like it even more. You can say anything. He stopped and looked at me. Then I'll say something that can't be done now. I looked up. What? He said. You can't go alone to see dangerous people. I looked at him. Are you bothering me? No. He paused. I'm asking you. I didn't answer immediately. He added. You can refuse. This sentence made me want to laugh. You are very skilled now. He looked at me with a shallow smile in his eyes. I was trained by you. The night wind is very light. I suddenly felt that there was finally less tension between us. But I wasn't ready to walk up to him right away. Tu Mu. CH has happened in the past. He has 2 lifetimes of memory. I didn't. His feelings for me were as heavy as a life I had never experienced. I need time. He knew it too, so he didn't force me. A few days later, sure you came to Yes to find me. He didn't go directly into the office this time. Instead, let the front desk report. The secretary came in and said, Mr. Xia, Mr. Sure has arrived. Do you see it? Mr. Xia. The first time I heard this title, I was still a little unaccustomed to it. I closed the file. Let him in. When I came in, I was holding a document bag in my hand. I leaned back in my chair. Mr. Sure, do you need to make an appointment to see me now? He nodded. It should. I laughed. What are you looking for me? He put the bag of documents on the table. Cooperation plan. I opened it and looked at it. It is a cooperation contract between Sure and Yi Sure for a new project. The terms are clear. Profit sharing is fair. Clear risk responsibilities. There is no hidden control. I turned to the last page and found another black card. I looked up at him. Sure, you immediately explained. It's not money for you. This is a special account for the project. You can check, freeze, or refuse. I picked up the black card. Same color, the same weight. A month ago, he gave me a black card, which I refused. At that time, I refused to become an accessory to him. Now he gives me a black card, and I can still refuse. But the meaning is different. I put the black card back on the table. Time is gone. This time, I don't want a reward. He looked at me. I pushed the contract in front of him. I want a contract. His eyes slowly softened. Okay. I picked up the pen and signed my name at the end of the contract. Late summer is no longer the adopted daughter of the Xia family. It is no longer the time for my Fian. C. No longer a system host. It's just summer evening. After signing, I looked up at him. Happy cooperation. Mr. Sure. Sure, you took the pen and signed his name. Happy cooperation. Mr. Xia. I would have liked to be serious, but still laughed. He looked at me and suddenly said, Xia Wan, I have one more thing. What? I want to chase you. The pen in my hand almost fell. Are you talking about this now? Now the contract is signed. Work and personal feelings can be separated. I looked at his serious look and was a little speechless. What if I refuse? Sure, you said. Then I will continue to chase. What if I keep refusing? Then I've been waiting. There are no system rewards. He looked at me with a very light smile in his eyes. This time, you rejected me. And it was me who lost. I looked at him. A certain place in my heart that has been tense suddenly relaxed a little. I didn't agree. There was no refusal either. I just said, start with the partner. He said, okay. He said that when he was good. He was very serious. Like this is also an important contract. A month later, the Yi Foundation was officially established. I took out a portion of my mother's estate and set up an independent legal aid program. Help those who are controlled by their families, traded by marriage, and threatened financially. At the launching ceremony, a reporter asked me, Miss Xia, why do you want to do this fund? I looked at the camera and thought of my past self. The girl sitting at the Xia family's dining table, holding a pen and not daring to refuse. I said, because many people don't want to escape. They just don't have the first ticket. I want to give them that ticket. That night, the system appeared for the last time. It no longer has a mission. There are no more rewards. There is only one line of very gentle words. The host has completed its hidden mission, to become a free one. Final reward. Control of all of Yilan's estate. Do you accept it? I looked at the line and didn't confirm it immediately. I opened the window. The night breeze blows in, and the city lights are like a quiet sea. I finally understood that true freedom is not about getting a lot of money. It's not about winning all enemies. Instead, I can decide. I can receive. Can also refuse. I can love someone. You can also love yourself first. I clicked to confirm. The system interface slowly dissipated. Finally, the mother's voice sounded softly. Wan, go forward. I closed my eyes. Tears finally fell. But this time, I wasn't afraid of crying. I am because I can finally say goodbye to the past. Half a year later, Xia Mingyuan was formally indicted on a number of economic crimes and charges related to Yilan's old case. Xia Zhiro was restricted from leaving the country pending trial due to his involvement in forging documents and impersonating heirs. Shiheng was removed from the board of directors of Shiren. D was investigated. Yes slowly resumed operations. I was so busy that I had little time to rest. At that time, I really started chasing me. His approach is very restrained. A bouquet of flowers per day, not excessively expensive, is placed only at the foreground. I refused the invitation to dinner once a week, and he changed it to the progress of the project. I work overtime, and he will ask the driver to bring supper, but he won't go upstairs to disturb me. When I was sick, he made an appointment with a doctor, but first asked me if I wanted to. He studied well. It's so good that sometimes I find it funny. One day, he came to Yes for a meeting. After the meeting, it was raining outside. I stood at the door, watching the rain. He opened his umbrella and stood beside me. Do you want to go together? I glanced at him. This is also part of the pursuit. Yes. Then what if I refuse? I'll give you an umbrella, and I'll get caught in the rain myself. I laughed. Time is gone. Have you never chased anyone before? He is honest. No, I can see it. His expression stiffened for a moment. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then, I reached out and held the umbrella handle, not to take away. Instead, hold it with him. Let's go. He looked at my hand and didn't move it for a long time. I reminded him. It's raining heavily. Only then did he come back to his senses. Okay, we walked into the rain together. The umbrella is not big. The two were a little close. His shoulders were still a little wet. But he didn't tilt all the umbrella towards me. He finally learned, not hiding me in his protection. Instead, he walked the same path as me. The car was parked on the side of the road. Before getting in the car, he suddenly called me, Xiaowan. I turned back. The sound of rain is very light. He looked at me with serious eyes. Thank you for being alive. My heart hurt slightly. I still don't remember what happened in the first 2 lives. But I am no longer afraid of that past that I don't know. I walked up to him and raised my hand to touch his wrist gently. There was only a faint scar left there. Time is gone. Don't just think about making me live in the future. He looked at me. I said, you have to live well. He was stunned. After a long time, he laughed. That was the first time I saw him really relaxed and smiled. Okay, I got into the car and looked out the window at the rain. The city lights are stretched by the rain in a long line, like the fate that haunted me in the past. But now, they're finally broken. I am no longer the adopted daughter of the Xiao family, no longer a system host, no longer anyone's pawn. I'm Xiaowan, Yi Lan's daughter, the person in charge of the Yi family, my own master. As for the time I give, he sat next to me, did not shake my hand, and did not force me to give an answer. He just stayed with me quietly. I turned to look at him. Is next week's dinner invitation still valid? His eyes lit up slightly. It works. Then I'll think about it. How long? I laughed. Look at my mood. He laughed too. Okay. The car drove through the rainy night to a brightly lit place. I know there are still a lot of troubles ahead. It is not easy for companies to rebuild. The old case trial will not be simple. There are still many roads that need to be walked slowly between me and Shiyu. But I'm not afraid. Because this time, I don't rely on the system. Don't rely on the Xiao family. It doesn't rely on wealthy marriage contracts. I rely on myself. And I finally won.